Okay, let's hear from some of the older students from 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Courage, can you help me bring what's printed on the scanner, please? I want to hand that out. Any of the older students, what do you think the answer is? And physicists, I'll let you go in a second here. What do you guys think the answer is? So is it Gideon or is it Kalen on this? And it's not a competition, but I'm curious. What do you guys think? How many of you think the answer is yes? Okay. How many of you think the answer is no? Okay. So science cannot prove things like mathematics does. Have you guys heard me say that every scientist needs to take philosophy? You guys think I'm joking, right? I'm not joking. Like, I will tell this to the face of Stephen Hawking if he was alive today. You need to take philosophy. Why? When he died in his obituary, you're supposed to say very kind things about people, right? What the person who wrote his obituary said, he was good at physics, but terrible at philosophy. In his biography, and in his obituary. You don't say that. Like, don't say anything bad about somebody. But that's why did they say that about him? Because he left the field of physics and tried to dive into the field of philosophy without some of that rigor. And I'm sure he knew some philosophy, don't get me wrong. But one of his big theories was called the multiverse theory. It's this idea that the universe can have multiple, like if we had multiple universes, we can somehow get the fine-tuning of the universe to happen like a jackpot. Our universe hit a jackpot. And he wrote a whole book that became a bestseller called The Grand Design. Even the best quantum physicists of our time was told, you needed to take philosophy. So everybody here should take philosophy. And I know one of you is studying for the CLEP Humanities. I actually am also studying the philosophy CLEP Humanities, just for fun, the philosophy section. So if you like humanities, or you want to study philosophy, that book actually is a good resource for philosophy. Okay, so science can't prove anything like mathematics does, and that's why when somebody ever tells you, prove that God exists, you know the best rebuttal to tell them? Prove that you exist. Because you can't actually prove that you exist. You can't prove it mathematically that you exist. You think I'm the only one who says this? Well, look up this name if you're ever bored. This is the most read English philosopher of all time. And before he died, what did he say? I don't think I can prove I exist. This guy is literally like one of the fathers of a field of philosophy. And one of his points was proving you exist is actually harder than people realize. And there's other things he said too. But this man is named David Hume. C.S. Lewis is like, if you ever want to do a fun comparison, C.S. Lewis wrote a book called Miracles. He wrote a book called An Inquiry into Human Understanding. Now remember, C.S. Lewis is a boss in literature, okay? But this guy is saying miracles don't exist. But if you're a Christian, according to the law of non-contradiction, you have to believe they do, correct? So these two people, this one lived back in the day, this one died in 1963. It's easier to remember his date of death because he actually died the day JFK died, same day. And so the news was focused on the U.S. what happened with the assassination of Kennedy, while C.S. Lewis died peacefully. I believe he might have actually been on his knees praying, and then they came back and he was like dead. Anyway, C.S. Lewis, great man to know. Okay, biology. All those definitions, we need to have those definitions in our notebooks, every one of those definitions. The other thing I want to encourage you to have is a list of every scientist they talk about. I'm going to do this quick overview. DNA has to do with information. The presence of DNA shows that there's design. While all that life truly entails is not known, we want to give you an introductory description to what is known about biology, which biology stands for the study of life, right? Biology, right? The study of life. Okay, very good. Then they go on to the characteristics. Organization. There is organization in life, starting from cells. What's the next level? What's the next level of complexity? Tissues. What's the next level of complexity? Organs. And then Axel, what's the next level? System of organs. Right? And then what's the next level? Did we just say an organism? Right? So we should know that level. That's very important to know the level of complexity. Okay, metabolism. Remember, catabolism, you're breaking down. Anabolism, you're building up. What is the study skill here? You just need to know that one of them has to do with destruction And how do I remember that? I connect caterpillar, the caterpillar I see destroying things. I connect that with destruction. So when I hear catabolism, I think destruction. And guess what? The opposite of it must be building, anabolism. Okay? So you need to know the difference between catabolism and anabolism. And if I give you a process, can you categorize it as catabolism or anabolism? So for example, glycolysis. Again, a little bit of Greek and language today. Lysis, cutting of, right? Glycolysis, when you're cutting things, you're breaking them down, so that process will be like catabolism. Make sense? If you're breaking it down, breaking those sugars down. Okay, number 3 was homeostasis, which is the ability of an organism to maintain a constant internal environment. Did you know a lot of problems you have in health today is an imbalance problem? If there's an imbalance problem, it can lead to depression, it can lead to certain things, medically speaking. There's other reasons why people have depression, but I'm just saying one of them can be an imbalance. Have you ever learned about the research of, for example, excessive cell phone use and what it does to people when they get depressed? It's because your body is trying to give off a lot of dopamine, of all these exciting hits to your brain, and then you leave all the social media stuff and then you're like down. That's why you don't want an excess release of dopamine constantly. We didn't have that until cell phones came, where you could literally be entertained every other minute. Back in the day, if you wanted to be entertained, you had to get ready for the day, you had to walk a long distance, you had to go to a place called a video club, you had to have a membership, then they give you the video, then you had to walk back to your house, then you had to hope there was electricity so you could put the video cassette and hope that it works, and then you get entertained. Now, excuse me, I need to be entertained. Here's 75 things for you. Great. Do you see the difference between your generation and mine? So we didn't get dopamine hits every minute. The excessive dopamine hits is actually part of why there's an excessive problem with, especially teenage girls, society has shown, because of Facebook and Instagram. Be careful with those things. Homeostasis is when you have a balance. And how do you get a balance? Be careful with technology, get good sleep, and your body will be in good balance. Number 4, response to stimuli. Living things respond to stimuli. If you bring something hot near me, I'm going to respond. But do you know some people don't have those cells? And therefore, they can put their hand on a stove. And if they're not looking there, they don't know their hand is on the stove. Very dangerous. And that's another reason why you need to be kind to everybody, because you might be classmates with someone who literally is suffering severely and you have no idea. Number 5, adaptation. If you throw someone into a situation, they generally can adapt, right? That's how humans are. We're able to adapt. Then it goes on to reproduction and heredity. And then the experiment for DNA is on page 7. And part of what I want to see is the balance between studying for your test and taking your lab work. I'll talk to my TA after I split you into your groups. But in your lab work, you guys can actually do that in groups as well, once we get established with how many people are in each group. And in your lab work, you basically will get the supplies. One person will do some of the experiments. So let me actually detail that. So for lab work, we want to have about 3 to 4 people. So one person will conduct the experiment, 1 to 2 people, conduct experiment. And one person will document, so let's just call it another person here. One person will document what's happening, collecting that data, right? So let's try that strategy for now. 1 or 2 people doing that experiment. One of them has a notebook, and please write your name, your group members, and then conduct the experiment. So I'll probably split you off, and then I'll come around to the different groups. I also would like to have your groups maybe help us lead labs. So I buy the supplies, and then you can try and lead. So for example, Audra's group might come up and say, hi, we're leading the lab on microscopy today. We've set up the microscopes there. All of you are going to go and you're going to look at A, B, C, D, whatever the book says. But then they tell you guys, okay, have a good day. They go do their experiment, you go do your experiment, and so on. Physics, the same thing. I'm going to have you guys take turns in leading labs, okay? And then when you start building your resume, put on the resume that I helped in lab work, okay? Put that you helped us as a lab helper as well. So I'll come back to your groups and talk to you about experiments. Number 7, living things grow, and if growth is not happening, we have a problem. Your book gives an example of different sizes, like a virus. Remember what we had, the problem with COVID and masking? The problem was because of the size of the viruses. That was the problem, right? So then the masking was actually useless. Did you know the research came out a few months ago and said masking was useless? I'm sorry. So sorry to break the news to you. Thank you. Masking was useless. And then there was just so much wrong about COVID. I'm sorry. But one of them was they made these people wear masks. And then you go to other countries where they didn't wear masks, and a lot of them were just fine. And it's like, that's interesting. Not fine in the sense that people might not get sick, but fine in the sense that they kept moving on. Life was fine. Guess what we did? By giving the solutions we did for COVID, trying to deal with the virus, we actually made people's mental health worse. So now our nation is begging counselors. We need more counselors. We need more people to be mental health specialists because we literally ruined a lot of people's lives. And I'm sorry that that happened. I'll give you an example. There was a company that said you must get the vaccine or we fire you because the research says that you don't transmit the virus, blah, 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 if you've taken the vaccine. A few weeks ago, it came out and they asked the people, so what is the evidence that if you have the vaccine, you don't spread the virus? True story. They came out and they were like, we actually don't have any research. This is after thousands of people lost their jobs because of that. Science needs to be understood properly. We thought we understood viruses until COVID came, and then we're like, we don't know about viruses anymore. Look at that virus, 90 to 100 nanometers. And people are wearing these, basically some of them are just pulling up their shirts, walking into stores, and we're like, yep, you're safe, you're good, you're good. What are we doing? Like scientists lost their mind because of a virus. Anyways, I apologize. On behalf of the scientific community, I am sorry. That was ridiculous. Have mercy on those people. And if they don't repent, then don't have mercy on them. But that is what happened, okay? Life has different levels. I'm not going to go into detail on the other ones. Life, domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Find an acronym or mnemonic to remember stuff, okay? Lastly, philosophy of science was discussed. You guys know how much I love philosophy of science. Please pay attention to every bold term. So write every definition and every bold term. Okay? In conclusion, this is my gift to you. We're going to discuss this more next week, Thursday. But if you don't mind, I'll have Liam give you guys some. This is out of a college textbook on how to study for tests and how to take good notes. So Liam is going to pass to the first row. You can pass it to everybody on your row. Pass it down, please. Courage the back, and then you guys can, if you want to start passing from the back, everybody should have one of these. This teaches you effective study strategies for testing, the importance of good strategies. It goes over how to read, creating the right environment. I'm going to make a whole video on this later. So physics students, this will help you as well. And lastly, I have one more nugget, and then you guys are dismissed into your small groups. One for each of you. I only have 2 major documents. If you want the 400-page book that goes over all of this, let me know. It teaches you how to be a super student and study, okay? And then I'll discuss this last study skill before I let you guys go into your groups. What are you going to do in your groups today? While we work with the experiment team to figure out who's doing what group is, you guys should designate somebody to be your journal taker for your experiment group. And then I have one more for you. And then can you give this one to them? And, okay, so we'll pass it to these guys. Thank you, Brendan. Can you give that to Axel too? Okay, so let's just talk about one more thing. So we're studying for chapter 1 tests. A lot of big terms to know. For this first chapter, we have a lot more grace. So please, I would like to see your notes by September. So 4, 5, 6, 7. On September 7th, when you come, I would love to see your notes if you haven't uploaded it in Google Drive already. Make sense? Perfect. Yes?
I take my notes in a notebook.
So you just take a picture, and if you can't do that, then just bring your notebook, and I'll see it when you come.
Okay, yeah, because I have like 20 pages.
Yeah, so I don't want... See, here's a big battle that keeps me up at night. Are you ready? Should I take their notebooks away from them or not? Like, literally. So the easiest answer to it is... Take a picture. If you don't have a phone that does picture taking, have your parents take a picture, email it to you, and then you email it to me. I don't want to keep your notes because I need you to have it to study. Everybody see my battle? So by next Thursday, we should have that. But moving forward, though, the day before your test, all your notes should be done. That's the goal every time. Okay. Liam had a very good question, so let's answer it. He said, what happens if you have a chapter 1 review? And then I believe in the other booklet is like something else, right? What's it called in that other book? Quiz. What if there's a quiz and then there's a review? I would say do the chapter review. If you feel you still want to get extra practice, you could do the quiz if you want. But the only things that are mandatory are the chapter review and the chapter test. Those are non-negotiables. Everybody get that? Everything else can be negotiated.
Section reviews and
The comprehensive checks, you mean?
yeah.
The comprehensive checks, I will highly recommend that you write your answers out. That's what I agree. But here's the key. The answers are at the end of the chapter, and I know that. But I want you to at least be able to summarize it in your own words. Just make sure you know what you're reading. So, for example, you get to page 16, comprehensive check. It gives you a question. Just write a response to that briefly, okay? So what would my notebook look like? It would have definitions. And then when I get to a comprehensive check, I'll just say check 1. I'll write my answer. And then I'll continue writing definitions. This is a suggestion. If you're doing a little different, that's fine. I'm just giving you a default platform to start. Write the definitions, write the things you're learning, the things you find interesting, do your comprehensive check, write more definitions, and keep going along. When it's time to test, go back to those definitions. Try to play with them with your group members. Hey, what is irreducible complexity? What is this? What is that? We already talked about irreducible complexity last semester. I have the book of the man who came up with that big field, and actually we somehow are connected to him. I wrote to him when I did my senior paper, and one of his colleagues is actually coming to speak at our school on February 12th. So stay tuned. Yes?
So there is comprehension checks and then the quiz in the back of each chapter. But then in the other book, there's the test.
The chapter
So
test.
you said we have to do that test.
Just that test and the chapter review. Those are the two things that I would say you should strive to do. Everything else is for your benefit as you need to. Oh, okay. Perfect. So those are good things to do. Okay, so please take this home. You have time to look at it till next week. But this will teach you how to study, how to read actively, how to take good notes. It's just a good resource. The last paper is this one. Most of you are hybrid students. God willing, next year I'm sure we'll have more and more of a demarcation. But right now we have a mix of two of you. Those who are here 5 days a week, we see you every day, we give you the work, we get the work. But those of you who are hybrid students, we don't see you on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays generally. So here's what I want to beg you to do for me. Go to your study place, wherever that is in your house. Before you start studying, ideally before the week, write down your goals. What are you hoping to accomplish during that study session for the subjects you're studying? Write those goals down, and then at the end of your studies, either put a check mark or asterisk saying, I didn't get it done. But here's what I want you to learn through that process. The process of setting a goal, accomplishing the goal, and then moving on from there. These are skills everybody in the universe needs. Everybody. And we're the only ones. I don't believe in aliens. But you guys get the point. These are the skills you all need. So don't tell me, oh, that doesn't, it doesn't. No. This is what, in your future job, you're going to have this. In your PhD program, you're going to have this. In your master's program, you're going to have this. So why not build it now? And then on Monday when I see you, on Thursday when I see you, I can ask you, hey, how did it go in your study time? Just write down lesson 5. I'm not saying write an essay. The point is you have something to be held accountable to. Sound good? So this is what this is. I have a billion of these if we need it. So we make one for each week specific. Okay, so groups. Physics is one group. You guys are dismissed. Audra, I already gave her a group, but it looks like there's 3 people there, 3 people there. Tori is not here today, but Sophia and Caitlin. Okay, so you have your group. You two are in your group. Find your spot where you're studying. Keep working through your terms together. I'll come find you when I'm ready with my experiments. Assign somebody to take notes in your group. Liam, who was in your group? Okay, can you guys just move along?